Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
Man, I'm thrilled to be this busy. I'm not complaining. I'm simply remarking that, and my hair is going all over creation. Oh man,
Don't worry, you're in good company there.
the team is working on the new UI, and I'm as excited about that as I am about. I'm really excited. We're really changing not the calculation, strategic capacity, all of the functionality remains the same. How we display the information, how you interface with the information is changing. And I'm really fired up. In fact, I'd love your feedback. I'm going to get together in the middle of July. I'll get together a group to go through it. We'll start with concept by concept.
Mhm.
We're adding we're adding a couple of capabilities that I think could have a profound impact on helping people win engagements and remain super relevant to their clients. And as long as it's qualified clients, right? When I say qualified, I mean clients who are willing to make change. So what's going on in your world?
1 second, and I will absolutely tell you. I got one of those emails that I can't ignore. Let's
Cool.
see.
Well, we're going to have I think the usual gang. Here we go. John Carter. Come in, Detroit. Tim. I said we have Detroit, Baltimore. How you doing, John? Tim, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Just
Hello?
hello.
Help.
Is there anybody out there? Hotter than the hinges of hell here in Charleston, South. It's not that hot. People complain about it. I'm like, come on, man. It's summer. It's supposed to be hot. But there we go. Mr. Frasco. Good morning, Joseph. So what's on everyone's mind this morning?
I have a quick question for you that we may want to take offline, but I sent you an email this morning about if there's you've managed to master a next tier of branding using Claire or Claude or with the materials you're creating, the strategic capacity and business value reports, and then the blog that you shared with me. If there's some sort of boilerplate prompt to use to get it to turn, say, a Google Doc into that format, love
Sure.
to have.
Sure. It's pretty straightforward. And I'll make a couple of comments. Yes, I'd be happy to share the prompt. It's pretty straightforward. The prompt is, please convert the attached into I tend to use the word executive summary because AI seems to understand what that means, but into a client deliverable, into whatever you want the result to be. And hey, good morning, Barry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. And then, based on the attached, and you can stack up 2, 3, 4 documents and it will match them. And you just tell the prompt and just tell it in plain language. I'd like you to emphasize strategic capacity, focus on the first dimension, especially using Claire 1 and momentarily, I keep saying momentarily, Claire 2. So where we're adding, AI is advancing so quickly that we're developing, and then they're like, oh, we took that model. We no longer support that model. It's like, thank you very much. When we start talking about okay, yeah, we have someone's on a phone and on their computer, perhaps.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are we getting an echo?
Is it from me?
I don't know. I'm going to mute you and I'll tell you right now. Nothing personal, dude. Okay. Do we still have an echo?
No.
No.
A little bit. Well, I'm going to unmute. There you go. Don, you can come back into class. Your time out is over.
So is it still echoing?
I think we're okay. Yeah, we're okay.
Because I'm playing with a different microphone right now, so I do apologize.
Not a problem. So Tim,
That, there's the beginning of your answer, and I'll send you the exact prompt I thought I had. I apologize. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Wayne. And yeah, so as we're building Anthropic into Claire 2, and I know that a cohort of you have access to Claire 2. That's Claire Inside Clarity. We're adding Anthropic. Anthropic is a different model than OpenAI, so we're actually building in some tokenization. So you'll have a bunch of free prompts, after which you'll have a nominal charge to add tokens. And that's that's just the way that it is. So yeah, I'm sorry. Well, normally I'd say unlimited everything, but when it comes to AI, the different models, we have to accommodate the different models. And there are some people who are really muscular with sandboxing things, and that's great. Feel free, but you'll eventually hit a ceiling. So we're having to build that in. Good morning, Mitch, man. Hey, Mitch, the engineers are all over that. So
okay, was that helpful what I sent you?
yeah. That any information, you never know what's going to be but they're digging into it because I couldn't replicate it, and I didn't see it in some other. I told you I just pulled up some other reports. So it's not a systemic issue. It's something they'll go through and they'll look at the click history and sort out, okay, what Mitch managed to have a business that's with nominal value of $4 million generate without adding any data to financial data. The system, Mitch didn't do it, the system did it. It generated a $39 million discounted cash flow calculation of value, which, the good news is
amazing because the value and the growth, the growth section was only 2.7 million. So
yeah, exactly. You're going to be thrilled.
Mitch, I advise have them sell right now for 39 million.
Exactly.
Yeah. I offered them half of that. I figured I could get the difference.
Yeah. So I went and looked at some other reports. It's not replicated anywhere, and I couldn't replicate it. So that's why we have an engineering team, and they know that it's a priority. They'll have it done, probably while we're on this call.
George, do you mind if I ask a question? Because I have to jump off. I have actually a client call.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thanks. In about 10 minutes. But it was about the conference, your conference, the
summit. Yeah.
The summit. So I just want to make sure I understood because I've been getting information like, I wouldn't say piecemeal, but in sections, it's not, and it's my first one. So it looked like you had to sign up and only 50 people can come. Did I understand that?
Yeah. What we do is we have a hotel, Mitch. Yes. Is the short answer. It's the first 50 people who register. We typically have, like last year we had 62 people, but that included some sponsors. So I'm not counting sponsors in that number. The room will hold a little bit more than that, but what's driving it is not the size of the room. What drives the number is the ability to have very meaningful workshops where everyone can participate. And it's been no one has asked us to change that aspect. So that's why we limit it. And, give me a moment. You'll eventually see 2 and then 4 different gatherings. We're going to introduce a second set of workshops around facilitation. And so, but yes, that's a long, yes, the first 50 people, plus sponsors. So the sponsors aren't taking seats, and it's terrific because then we can divide into, neatly into basically groups of 12, and do some really meaningful stuff. It's fun.
I just wanted to, I appreciate that. I just wanted to understand the structure. Obviously, my only other conference was ZPI, and that's as different as it could be.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so Yeah, it's a very intimate experience, Wayne. If you think about kind of what we do here, but obviously more organized, and we are going to workshop. So we run a series of like nested workshops. So the basic format is panel, plenary Q&A, table exercise, debrief, panel, etc. Wash, rinse, repeat, but on different topics. So we'll dip into an engagement in the analyze, design, and execute phases, and it's important that everyone. We talk about, are you a 1 or a 5? It's important that someone who's a 1 or a 2, typically a wealth advisor, exit planner, knows what Joseph or Tim are thinking when they're helping the client implement change, the necessary change, and so yeah, I'm psyched. We have our next committee meeting is tomorrow, I think at noon, guys. Right? It's on the calendar.
Yep.
And after which we're going to, we have the better than the broad strokes on the webpage now, and we'll fine tune it and get it down to the hour and start announcing who's going to be asking people to participate on the panels. And then there are everyone in the room participates. So you participate as a participant, potentially as a panelist, potentially as a moderator of a panel, potentially as a table leader. So there's a lot of opportunities to share. Everyone shares. So and you guys, those are a bit like I see Steve nodding his head. If you're at an every table exercise, we have a scribe, we have a speaker, we have the table moderator. So a lot of interaction, and it forms these. I should stop talking and ask you guys what your experience has been. Hey,
Well,
Eric, what do you think of the summit?
I want to point out, Mitch, that George left a critical part out. In the small print at the bottom of the registration, it says that we charge, kind of like AI, $1,000 for each question. So you can't ask too many questions. Be strategic about the questions. Yeah, right. It gets expensive.
I'll practice my prompts in advance.
Yes.
No, and guys, we booked the aquarium is booked. Catherine is working on getting the contracts in for. We're going to do the aquarium again. It was just fun.
So bring your swimming trunks.
Getting the Shark Tank.
Yeah, George told me that was the best sushi dinner that we have.
Yes, it is. It's very fresh.
Have the puffer. So yeah,
on that amazing dad joke, I will leave. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Mitch, man, great to see you. I'll be in touch later today.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man. Be well.
I'm glad to see that Tim is here. I got a quick question for everybody. What is your current thought on the amount of time for a CEO workshop? 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, or 4 hour?
What are you trying to accomplish?
What are you workshopping? Yeah.
I'm going to workshop Growth Drive with the CEO stuff, and I'm thinking of throwing in a couple of other things as well. And
3 to 4.
Great.
We've been doing 2.5, and it's tough to get through everything when you let the meeting run with some breathing room. Like we start with, food and just getting to know each other, people chatting it up. So that burns your first half hour, even if you've made some introductions. Then getting through whatever presentation you want to give, which for us includes doing the Clarity 1 exercise, then doing Q&A on that, and leaving room at the end to steer people towards good choices, right? So 2.5 on the inside, 3 to 4 if you can get it, if you can get people's attention and keep it for that long.
George, it looked like your deck is for the CEO workshop. I just went through it yesterday. It looks like it's fairly short. Actually, you could present it in a half hour, and the rest of the time is doing the clarity. And it looks like you're proposing that they do the clarity, not the level 1, but the I forget what you changed the name to.
Yeah, the snapshot.
Snapshot. Thank you.
Yes. When you do so, the important and Tim, please chime in. From my perspective, You'd be hard pressed to do the presentation in half an hour because you want to share some data. And I always get the room, I ask questions and try to get the room to start participating before they take clarity level 1. Snapshot, ladies and gentlemen, is simply clarity level 1, but without getting the financial information. That was some people get hinky about sharing their gross revenues in the meeting. It also gives the opportunity to follow up and say, hey, if you want to know how this applies to your business. Now, Tim didn't run Snapshot. He ran clarity level 1. And that worked. And both times, Tim, right? How do you feel that went?
Oh, it worked great. And you immediately get, your dashboard is filled with, 10, 12, 15 new clarity ones, which is great. And nobody's revealing their revenue and their margin. They're all doing it in the privacy of their own laptop. But Paul, I would agree with George. So you could get through the slides if you just stuck to the content on the slides. But there's too much color commentary, like you tell a few stories. You want to offer some backup information. Let me give you an example. So I would double that, and you'd still be doing a disciplined job of getting through the slides.
What did you do for the COIs that attended? Because a majority of your attendees
Yeah.
were COIs. Did they have
Yeah.
a company in mind that they knew well?
Yeah, so that was baked right in. If you're asking what they did when they filled out the assessment, many of them did it on their own business.
Okay.
And then you just tell them, use an imaginary just so they get the experience. Use a business that you're familiar with. If you don't know their exact gross, you probably do know their gross revenue. So you give them a compliment. You probably do know their revenues and their margins, right? So just put into the best of your knowledge. You can make up a different name for the company. We don't care what the company is, so you can keep it anonymous. But it's going to give them the opportunity to see when we come back to them, especially with the new breed of branded report that I was just quizzing George about when we got online here today. It's a wow moment, right? And in the course of the deck, we address the COIs 3 or 4 times. So at the beginning, when we're doing the welcome, hey, many of you are business owners. You're here because you want X, Y, or Z, or this is what you're dealing or struggling with. They feel like we've been reading their minds. If you represent businesses, if you're a COI or however we want to refer to, if you're running professional services, this is what you're going to find here. So we work them into that right from the start. And then at least 2 or 3 points in the deck, we reference there's copy in there that says if you're a COI or if you're this, all the way back down to the meeting at the very end where we say, okay, now you get your private meeting. If you're a business owner, you take the left fork. If you're a COI, you take the right fork, and here's what you get.
Is your deck available to people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Is it out there on Circle or
I think it is. If not, I'm happy to send it to you. I'll send it to you right now.
Okay, thanks. I've reserved 4 hours in the
Nice.
boardroom of our country club for every first Friday from August through December. So I'll be running a series of sessions.
Paul,
Very
one of the
cool.
things I've found from running an EPI chapter is if you tell them the components of what you're going to do, it's a little scary to hear we're going to sit in a room for 4 hours and just crank at stuff. So if you can break it up and tell them, hey, this part is networking, this part is going to, like, if you communicate the agenda, it helps people to go, oh, okay, I get it. There's going to be a little presentation. There's going to be a little workshop part. It just, at least from our experience, it makes everybody feel more comfortable that they're not going to get talked at for 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can
Great
understand
advice.
that.
Great advice. Yeah. I've done them anywhere from an hour and a half to 4. And the more time, 2.5 with Tim. And I'm sorry, Tim, that I end up rushing up to the Tim has to be like, hey, the last slides, dude, the last slides.
I came to him at the break. We finally took a break this last one, and I walked up to George and I said, "We're not going to finish." So then it was just do what we got to do, and he did finish. He brought it in on time, so he sprinted the last couple laps, and we did good. So, but it takes a village. You got to pay attention because there's a lot to share. There's questions and stuff. I mean, you think about less about getting through the presentation and more about what do you want the people to come away with? What do you like begin with the end in mind. What's the holy cow that they're going to leave the room with? And you just angle for that, pace yourself, give yourself time to make sure every one of those people has that eureka moment in their own terms.
Yeah, you could do 6 of these and you wouldn't give them all the information that we have got.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you got that's a great point, Tim. You got to pick a thing that you're working towards, a message that you're working towards, and realize that there's going to be more opportunities to talk to them, that you're not going to get all the information in one shot.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it really was, hey, the main thing was there's a completely different way to look at and grow the value and prosperity of your company. And here it is. We want to show it to you and let us know if you'd like to know more. I mean, that really was fundamentally it. But in the meantime, they get a chance to see it's like looking at the world through a completely different lens. And
Yeah.
that's what's catching them so far.
Tim, I don't know if you're experiencing this, but what we see a lot is that business owners are great operators. They know how to run their business and have it work day in and day out. What they don't do really well is work as a, understand how to grow a business or to grow the value of a business. So they think that by growing revenue every year, they're growing the value. And to a degree, they're right. To a small degree, they're right. But they're not doing, that'd be like saying, hey, by living in my house, it's getting more valuable. Well, inflation is making it a little more valuable, but there are lots of things you could be doing to your house that would make it a lot more valuable, a lot faster.
Well, and there's also, that's a CEO workshop. And so we need to allow enough time for people to get comfortable. So as Tim said, the getting together, introducing each other, starting to create a little bit of a group feeling. And it takes the first, what do you say, Tim, the hour to get the first person. There's always one in the room, in my experience, always one in the room who's going to lean in and start really participating. It was Dan in Baltimore. It was Phil in Annapolis.
Chris,
Yeah, the people who are going to lean in and really start participating, and that gets everybody to start sharing, which is because it is a workshop, and the more you can get them engaged and talking, you know, my goal, believe it or not, is to shut up. So
Don't believe it.
So when I did it, George, to a group that I talked to, we had a lot of discussion around what the questions are, what the questions mean, and they really dove into like, you're asking me this question, and then there was a lot of discussion around it. So we spent a lot of times. I did a Clarity One exercise with them. They all had their own computers, and they all put their own information in, but we had a lot of discussion around the questions themselves. What does that mean? Why is that important? Stuff like that. But it took at least 3 hours to get through.
yeah,
Thank you all.
awesome.
George, do you mind if I throw in a couple things over here? One
Joseph,
observation,
love it.
and one I think practice management thing. One thing that I actually learned a couple of weeks ago, which I am now using, I think it's good for the community. There's a concept. If you go through a process with AI, in other words, let's say preparing a deck, or you want a cover page in a certain way, and you use any of the platforms, doesn't really matter, Claude or ChatGPT, in order to prepare this end outcome, you can actually, if you're happy with the results at some point, you can actually take that entire process, put it back into the AI and say, create this into a skill, make this into a skill, so it's automatically repeatable. So you don't need to go through the entire process from beginning to end in order to get the exact same outcome. So, for argument's sake, if you're going to take a clarity report and you want, something specific extracted out of it to be able to create a cover letter or something of that nature, actually make that into a skill, so you can have it done automatically without having to go through the process and managing it every single time. So I thought that was one thing that I learned that was
Awesome.
valuable from my side. Second thing is I'm always doing a self-check, so to speak, on my predispositions and ideas and beliefs about the people that I work with. And last week I went to Scaling New Heights, which is a Woodard program for accountants.
It's, I think, one of the largest events of its type every year. And there were, I think, somewhere around 4,000 accountants and bookkeepers there. And the main focus, as you can imagine, was AI. So they were AI and the concept of, entering advisory type of work and value-based pricing. I think the one thing I took away from there was the emotions that came out were so incredibly extreme. One of them was total fear and panic by the vast majority of people on how they're going to be able to compete in the landscape with AI there, because they understand the compression that's going on. The other one was the excitement of the opportunity, what they could achieve if they get their arms around AI. But the most important thing was when I was walking around the exhibitor section was the look on most of the people's faces of total overwhelm. They just didn't know. They were like literally a deer in the headlights, not knowing what's the next step. There was literally, or I should say virtually, an AI service application for pretty much every aspect of the financial services industry. And they were just like, I don't even know where to start. But at the end of the day, I turn back and what I do really realize is that this is something completely new to the industry.
Yes.
They're not really clear on what the path forward is and how to respond to this whole thing. And the reason I bring it up is I'm not worried about what's going to happen to the industry. I think when we have a conversation with them about the role of an advisor, what advisory work really is, and how you do the work that you do, we have to spend a little. I think if your focus is working with CPAs, you have to spend a little bit more time understanding, because what they call advisory and what we call advisory are two completely different animals. There was just no connection with it. I spent quite a bit of time. I had a close group of, I think it was 16 or 17 CPAs that I met with them regularly during the 4-day event. It was Sunday through Wednesday. And then, just during the other time, because it was a long event, it started 7 in the morning. It was till 6 o'clock at night every day. I just would walk up and say hello to people and talk to them and just kind of get this, try to get understanding from them, what their thoughts were of AI and the implementation and what advisory work and so on. But I would just come back to the point of what they think advisory work is and what we do is two totally different animals. So we need to make sure that if we're going after them, we need to communicate in a language that they're going to understand, which is very different than, what we talk about.
How would you define that, Joseph? What do you see their language being centered around?
Well, it's very interesting. I think their definition of advisory is strictly tied to finance, where a huge component of what we talk about is really on the operational side.
Yeah.
And those are two different animals. They can talk all day about, finance, but they can't talk about operations. And my sense is that the owners understand, or I said, the owner's primary pain point doesn't come from the financial side, it comes from the operational side.
Mm.
So, that disconnect over there, my sense is that the potential conflict or discomfort that comes when you're dealing with accountants is that they don't know how to bridge that too, because they're not comfortable in that space. So they might push back on the type of work you do because they want to be in control of the relationship, which is fair.
Yeah.
And they feel obligated to the client, and they're not comfortable in bridging that gap. So.
And the other thing I'd throw in there, Joseph, as well, being a CPA, being in some big firms with audit practices, right, is that they shy away from compromising their integrity. I mean, their independence. Excuse me.
Independence.
So they will not play any kind of management role or try to help. There's a very thin line between independence and not being independent. So if you get involved with the client's operations and you're maybe even helping them or calling the shots for them, that gets them a little nervous about whether or not they're still independent when they report on the financial results because they were involved in the decisions. that led to those financial results. So they're not independent anymore. So I've seen that tension, and that could be one, not the only reason, but that's probably one of the reasons why they back away from trying to get too involved in operational issues, because they have large audit practices that whose independence would be impaired.
No, I'm totally with you, Michael. The real question is the emphasis at the event on expanding the advisory side of the business and how AI can assist them in doing that means that they want to go down that direction. So the question is, what are they advising? I'm totally with you. The vast majority of people, even business owners, don't really understand that accounting is really about compliance. That's it. Taking the information, what happened, right, and making sure that you represent it appropriately to the IRS for that purpose, for purpose of taxation. They're not in there from the advice side, but they understand that the compression, the ability to make money and grow practice simply on the compliance side is getting compressed because of the ability of AI to do it at a much cheaper and faster rate. So they naturally have to extend their existing practice into the advisory side, where they can go into the concept of value-based pricing for the advice they give. The question is, where does that grow? So in the bigger firms, I think, at least I have a couple of large firms that I work with, not, the top tier 1, but let's say tier 2 firms that maybe have, anywhere from 50 to 100 different, partners in the company. So they actually have a separate advisory division. So they run them separately. So you have your compliance side and you have your advisory side, which I'm guessing the top tier companies are doing as well. But the lower players, it's the people that have smaller practices, let's say less than 10, 10 partners in the firm. They're going to have to go down that space. It'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, they'll probably, my idea, my take on that is those lower tier firms that do compliance only, they'll probably be gobbled up by bigger firms who will buy their client base just so they can market to them the add-on advisory services.
Yeah, Wednesday morning of the event was totally on exit plan.
Was it? Using AI to do the compliance work. They just want the clients so they can get in front of them and start cross-serving or cross-selling to them all their advisory services. I think that's what's going to happen to the smaller firms. They'll get rolled up.
Yeah, I agree. I was just going to mention, I don't know if you guys heard me, but there was a PE firm. The entire Wednesday morning was on preparing your company to be bought out. A PE firm was telling them exactly what they need to do to their firm to be ready to be acquired. And there were a lot of people that were there that were really in a position where they knew they were going to be bought out or prepping for a sale. They don't want to go into this next stage, so to speak.
They don't want to make the investment either. I mean, you have to make I guess you have to invest heavily, or not heavily. You have to make an investment in AI tools, and a lot of them, they're what do you call businesses? What do we call them?
Lifestyle.
They're lifestyle businesses, right? The owners take every dime of profit out, and maybe buy computers once in a while, but and some subscriptions to software, but they're not reinvesting. They're not building, their infrastructure for growth. They take everything out, so they don't have the resources to make the investment necessary to harness AI, and that's probably one of the reasons why they figured out that, and they probably don't have any people coming up that really want the ownership anyway. So that's probably why they're getting gobbled up by PE firms and other big players.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of the overwhelm also wasn't just from the quantity of decisions that need to be made. It's just the practice that they were running. Like most other business owners, is always on fighting fires. They're just, there's no bandwidth for being able to address, how to make the business better. So the same thing as all the businesses that we're coming across.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. If you go and look at my friend Christine Hollanden has stood up the CPA deal desk, and she had 4 or 5 large national firms that were asking her to bird dog potential acquisitions for them. And I actually met with a private equity investor in Baltimore who's also heavily involved in the CPA space. It's a fascinating time. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Hey, Zach, welcome, man.
Sven, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, there we
Guys,
go.
Zach Jennings, a fellow Charlestonian. Zach and I met in person for the first time at the EPI Summit. Those of you who were there may have met him. And welcome, Zach. It's great to have you, man.
Nice to meet you, Zach.
Yeah.
So, and Zach, you're an exit planner. You want to share a little, just 1 minute about yourself, if you're comfortable doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, exit planner, focus on really growth advisory, preparing owners to really grow it and then prepare to sell it. But I focus in the trades, doing about $5 to $25 million in revenue, and specifically within residential services.
Yeah. Awesome. We have a growing Charleston contingent. Zach, we gotta get together for that cup of coffee. And I had Jimmy Gibson on the podcast yesterday. When that podcast drops, guys, you please listen to it. It is there's some really good stuff. Anyway, he's with a digital marketing agency, and he's done an 18-month study on basically on personal authority, but AI plays a major role. So, teaser. Zach, man, great to see you. Great to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Interesting conversation so far. What else is on people's minds? What, suddenly we're shy? Okay.
I didn't mean to make everybody nervous. You know?
No, exactly, Zach, man. You're
I could actually answer Paul's question he had before. I actually did a presentation yesterday, and I originally booked it for 2 hours, but I knew that it was going to take longer. It ended up taking 3.5 hours. So
awesome.
Slaying that I actually did it yesterday, and it ended up being 3.5 hours.
Interesting intel. That's awesome. Thank you, Joseph.
I assume that was not all talking at them for 3.5 hours, that there was interaction then.
No, definitely a lot of interaction, and again, a lot of the issues really about clarification. I can't repeat it often enough that semantics is really key. A lot of words that we use mean very different things for very different people.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to set the table first of some of these elements before you can kind of get to the meat of what it is that you do and how you do it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, a lot of what we invest time in is making sure people are clear enough on the concept of strategic capacity. And, simply saying that it scores a business's ability to predictably and sustainably grow free cash flow. How many times have I said that? You need to add some meat to that bone. So.
Yeah. Each of those components, by the way, George, have to be defined, right?
Yeah.
Because if you use the word profit, right? Everyone has different meaning of profit.
I see Stephen throwing his hands up. Yeah. Agreed.
Especially when you're in the finance field, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, that's why I like, there was a private equity investor in the room in Annapolis, and he came up during a break and he said, "Listen, thank you for using the term free cash flow. Nobody talks about free cash flow, and that's what we care about." Like, I know, but it's a term of art that most people don't understand. So, yeah.
I'd like to add something about the CPA connection, because Joseph is absolutely right. There's it's like two different worlds, two different perspectives. And I know there's been a lot of conversation on these calls about CPA firms and whether they're, Mike and I have had some great conversations as well about, the conservative nature of the CPAs and how they see things through their perspective. And while that may be true on a large scale, I think that if you just understand their perspective, what they're looking for, it may be possible to find ones that want to align or plug in. This is what we've been able to do here in our area, not on any kind of scale, but with one or two so far. The group that was represented at our first workshop, one of the partners showed up, and they happened to have a growth advisory practice that they were aspiring to offer as one of their services, right, along with compliance and tax and the other things that they normally do. And when they lined out their program, which is really well thought through, it was like growth advisory from a CPA's perspective. So the things that their program covered, and I have them here in front of me: business valuation, strategic consulting, market research, risk management, wealth management. They say business coaching, which is an anomaly for a CPA firm, only because this particular firm had been the recipient of some gravitas coaching. If you're familiar with that program, it's just a particular brand of leadership coaching. And one of the partners latched onto it. And so they decided to offer that. So that's sort of an outlier. But then they also talk about succession and exit planning, which is not uncommon, I think, for CPAs to address from their perspective. Like, here's what the ducks you want to have in a row for that exit planning. So that covers maybe a third of the 24 growth driving objectives, none of the operational stuff that Joseph was talking about. So this particular partner was astute enough to recognize that what we were talking about, what we offered, was the other 2/3, some overlap. We've since mapped their priorities to ours, and we're working out an alignment relationship where we can collaborate to deliver the full Monty to their clients, and a larger engagement, higher, annual engagement with the client financially, and better results and outcomes. So I just want to add that perspective and share that with the group, give everybody a chance to see things that way. That I don't think the CPAs are out of the question. There are going to be firms out there that are looking for people from our community with our skill set to attach potentially. Maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 6. I have no idea what the ratio would be, but that's what we're finding so far.
Yeah, Tim, I completely agree with you. I think the way I was looking at it was how to craft a message that makes them feel comfortable
Yes.
to engage with us, that doesn't make them feel like either they're being put at risk or they're risking the
Yeah.
relationship, or
Yeah.
that you're stepping over into their boundaries. One of the things I kind of threw out there to a couple of the people that I had a little bit more, more in-depth conversation was some form of, let's say, white label advisory service that they could provide to their clients on the introductory level that would help them kind of bridge some of the base elements. And once they were comfortable with that, then, you could go to a more in-depth type of relationship with them and their client base. So that was my takeaway, my primary takeaway from that week. And that's something that we're going to try in a couple of weeks with a handful of people that we started a relationship with and see if that works.
Yes. And we're doing exactly the same thing with this firm. We are taking a white label approach. We don't need them to advocate for our brand. We're happy to deliver inside. It should be single billing for the client and stuff. We don't, right? So we just want to help them with the work. So we're taking this deferential approach with them, and let's see what we can do. They get first choice. It's their sandbox. It's their client. Straight out of strategic referral team, we honor your relationship. It's your car, right?
Correct. So to that point, reason I'm bringing it up is suggesting is the following: that when you put together a report that you put in front of a CPA, even as a white label service, you might want to have separate sections that kind of discuss a little bit about the operational issues, so that if they have that, if they take that to a client, they don't feel like they're retarded because they don't know what they're talking about. So you're kind of like filling in some of the blanks so they can have a better conversation, give them a level of comfort that they can at least engage the client. If it gets to the point where they really want to go deeper, then I guess the CPA will bring you in for that. Like any firm, they don't expect to be an expert in every aspect of the business, but they want to be able to have at least a reasonable conversation with their client.
So Tim, you and I was working on one. I think you're familiar with it. I haven't heard back from them yet, but they're going to get back to me, they say. But this is a large firm, primarily East Coast United States, but they were open to discussing this, partnering with me, if you will, to do what I like to call it the front end of the exit process. The 3 to 5 years out, where you're looking at, strategic capacity and in building, a more transferable business. They were there. I think they like it because they have a separate investment banking firm that's owned by their partners outside of the CPA firm. So they see that, they get people when they get owners when the owner is like, I'm finished, I want out. And so, okay, we'll do all the transaction advisory work and bring you to market and try to sell you. But they have a slew of clients that aren't, where the owner is not there yet in terms mentally that they want to go to market right away. They have a slew of them that need to prepare, so that when the owner does say, I want to go to market, they're in the best possible position to be sold. We've helped them improve their position. And now their investment bank is there to pick up, take the ball, if you will, and take them and sell them. So I'm hoping that works out, but I haven't heard back from them yet. They told me they'll get back to me next week, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, guys, when we're talking to CPA firms, we also have to realize, back to Joseph's comment of them being at the advisory conference and being overwhelmed with what's going on, we have to remember their model. The typical CPA firm has the model of an annuity practice. They want the annual audit. They want the annual tax returns. Their model works actually not unlike a wealth advisor, that they get money over and over every year from their client being engaged with them. And we got to remember that if we're going in and talking to them and starting with the words exit, we're actually talking to them about the end of their model working.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Just
super interesting, Eric. I agree, by the way.
Yeah, again, if we're gonna be honest and put our cards on the table, let's realize where people are at and what they're thinking about. Don't start with exit with them. Start with, hey, we can grow your customers. They're going to need more of your work. That's how I start with CPA firms. Every single firm I go into, we demand that they have a CPA firm working with them on the outside doing their taxes. Even though I'm a CPA, we don't do their taxes. We want somebody outside, and I feed every single CPA firm. I bring new things to them when I'm in the client. I bring them sales tax that they're not doing, or I identify that they're in a different they're in a different state, or they're in something, right? And so we bring them work, and we show them how their work increases and how we can help them, and we make their work easier because the stuff that's prepared for them now is better, so they can do their work easier. If we go in realizing what makes their life better and help them grow, we earn the right to then talk about exit when it comes up, because everyone is going to exit. They can either choose to exit or they're going to exit anyway. Right. And so we can have that conversation, but if you start with that conversation, you're hurting the risk tolerance of that relationship, because their model is built on an annuity.
I could also bring up the fact that, similar to like when you're talking to financial advisors, they're going to be with the business owner after they've exited, so they have the long tail. But for CPA firms, there's always that option of the internal transfer. And if they're a part of that business growth, if they're a part of making that a reality, regardless of whether or not that exit is voluntary or involuntary, because no one actually knows the future, that CPA firm is much more likely to be retained by the new ownership from within the business when all of those leaders understand and are familiar with all of the different players that came in collaboratively for that exit plan.
I can't help but wonder, what if we, and I wonder out loud, telling you that I've used this in front of several audiences and it has resonated. There's been very positive feedback. I can't help but wonder how the conversation might change if we talk about leading clients to improve their business so that it qualifies into an asset class, right? Into a high asset, not a bad asset class, right? Into a high asset class. And because that conversation, I've used it with wealth advisors. I've used it in front of business owners, and you can see people, I mean, literally leaning in, and because it's intriguing, and it's a great way to replace when a business, and if you think about what a business needs to be an 85 plus strategic capacity, that business has all of its options, right? You want to die at your desk? Have at you. You want to sell it to a third party? You're in a great position to do it with minimized, not minimal, minimized friction, and probably at a high multiple, even some strategic multiples. You want to sell it to your management team? You're going to be the bank. Predictable and sustainably growing free cash flow is how you get your retirement payments. So the asset class conversation, I'd love if you guys test that out. I'd really value your feedback as to how that helps might help you. And if it doesn't, I'd love to hear that as well. There's no good news or bad news, right?
George, I think that's key. Even the conversation I had yesterday, it's just a repetition over and over again. The business owners, their identity is the business. And to have them separate themselves and understand that the business is actually an investable asset the same way they would buy stocks. And how would you buy a stock on the stock market, your portfolio? How do you make those decisions? Why are you not running it the exact same way? Why are you not running your business the exact same way? You go through that process. You can't do it if you don't disconnect the identity and their sense of self-worth being attached to the actual business itself. So you're 100% right about the concept of asset class.
Thank you, man. And what's interesting, and you just reminded me that I asked in the most recent workshop up in Annapolis, I said, okay, so when we look at public companies, we all know the price to earnings ratio, right? Shouldn't you be wondering about the price to earnings ratio? That's all the multiple is, right? The PE ratio for your own business. And then Dan at the firm, they offer wealth advisor, and he leaned in, you need to diversify. You have 80% of your net worth typically. You need to diversify that risk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah. I agree with all that until you get to that last sentence. If I'm going to, if it's my money and I can invest it in the stock market and make 10%, or I can invest it in my business and make 25% return, I'm going to invest in my business every single time.
100%.
Right.
We totally agree.
100%. Totally agree.
The difference is I was just gonna say that the business, for most business owners, the business is how I show my kids I'm a good father, how I show my wife I'm a good spouse, how I show my community that I'm a good and valuable member to the community. It's not necessarily the business quality itself. It's about what it reflects about me.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think that going into these conversations, that's the piece that we have a conversation on. It's how do we do that more for you? How do we help you do that more? And I think too often, look, we have to coach these owners along the way with things, but we're starting way at the end when they're not there mentally, they're not there at all. But yet we want to target them 3-5 years ahead, but we want them to be in that headspace. We need to use the language for what they're trying to accomplish right now, and then we can have the right to be able to coach them to that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if we go in with the mindset that we're going to help them diversify or do something like that, we're barking up the wrong tree to start with, Zach, to your point, right? We got to go in with the idea that we're going to help them de-risk their business a little bit, or have it perform better, or have it serve them better. And then we work our way towards, I just had a client the other day that was saying, I need $10 million to invest in my business. I said, great. You own your building. Do you need to own your building? We could free up some capital tomorrow. Like, let's sell your building and free up, $5 to $7 million of capital right there. Right. What's your strategy? Are you thinking about all the things you have? Right. And so, but you got to meet them where they're at. You got to meet them where they're at, not where we want them to be.
And that goes for partners and COIs as well, right?
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Hey guys, we have 7 minutes left and there are more than 7 of us. Do we want to do a lightning round of key takeaways? Does that work? Okay, Eric, you put your thumb up the quickest. What's your key takeaway from today?
Yeah, I love this conversation because it's a reminder that we tend to take our perspective on things and put it on other people. We tend to, the longer discussion about CPA firms, we tend to assume they want to go where we want to go. And I think this conversation was just a great reminder that we got to pause for a second and remember, not just for our clients, but for our COIs as well. What's in this for them? What do they need to get comfortable with it? And why do they want to participate in the longer term thing that we want to participate in, and meet them where they're at, and then help them get engaged where they're at, and then move them where it's beneficial to everybody. Right.
Yep. 100%, Eric. Thank you. Who do you want to toss it to?
Well, let's go down to Zach. We need the new guy.
Sure. In the quick little time I had here, I think a lot of it is, so I've been getting really focused on how do I have the right conversations, and just exactly what I was just talking about with the business owners. And part of that is qualifying what is it the pain point. Their pain point is not exit planning. Their pain point is something different. But then pushing that even further over into our COIs and partners of what is their pain point and what are their fears that prevents them from being able to actually partner with somebody like me. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
yeah,
Zach, who do you want to toss it to?
let's go to Joseph.
Thank you.
So I'll just state it in very simple terms. It's voice of the customer. We have to be much better at understanding the voice of the customer. And that customer can be a COI or a business owner.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Joseph. Go ahead. Who are you going to toss it to, Joseph?
John Carter.
John Carter.
Hey, I would just say ditto. I think you guys are really, kind of capturing all the thoughts in my head. It's really about, when I started this a long time ago, I left the law practice, which is hair on fire. What I really love about the advisory community is you really get to be holistic and you get to plan and you get to add value. There's so many things I'm learning. As I mentioned, I'm really looking forward to get to know you guys better and learn from you. I see you as all my implied mentors in a way. So, but yeah, I think the big takeaway for me really is just mentioned, really understanding where our COIs and our clients are coming from, right? I mean, we have so much information and knowledge to teach them, and we want to do so many things, but we have to slow the car down first and really listen and digest what they need. And that's been the biggest thing for me. So
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that, John. Thank you. Thanks, John. Who do you want to toss it to?
let's go with Tim.
Thanks, John. I enjoyed the whole conversation about CPA firms and stuff. My takeaway came from Eric. I want to create a business like CPAs that have an annuity model.
Yeah, man.
But seriously, I mean, recognizing that that's their paradigm, like you and Joseph and everybody was talking about, that realizing we're talking with them about an extinction prospect when we're talking about exit, so that puts us in a different frame of mind. So that was helpful.
True story. I literally a managing partner of a regional firm up in Pennsylvania turned to me and he said, "Well, then we wouldn't have any clients, George." Yeah. So who are you going to toss it to, Tim?
I'm going to toss it to Stephen. Have you gone yet, Stephen?
No, I haven't. Thanks, Tim. So mine actually kind of came in combination from Joseph and Eric, because Joseph talked about that event that he went to with all of those CPAs, and obviously with AI being the main facet, and how there are all of these services now that are literally threatening the profession. They have to adapt. There's got to be some way. And then Eric comes in and says, "Hey, I feed every single CPA that brings me business." And bringing those together is like, well, there's a solution because I know everyone wants the connection. Like that's the fundamental baseline. Everyone, yes, you could do it with AI. Yes, you could have the machine do all of these things, but at the end of the day, we're a relationship-based business. Most of these businesses are relationship-based. So if you actually establish that kind of outcome, you're not only kind of putting their mind at ease while also serving your client. It kind of came together in a way that was a light bulb moment for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Barry, Michael, and Paul remain.
And
I
George.
was about to say, I think I was going to toss mine to Barry.
Mr. Goodman.
Thank you.
Been very quiet today.
Yeah, I have been a little quiet because I've been listening and sitting back. And, this conversation with CPA firms has been going on for probably 50 years. So, okay.
Not
That
new.
CPAs are hard to get to and they're slow to change and all this stuff. It's been going on for probably my entire career. And I haven't practiced in probably 15 years or so. The whole thing with AI, I think is going to definitely affect the CPA firms, but those that are smart are going to adapt. And, a lot of not a lot, but several of the people that I play golf with on a regular basis, they either were or still partners in CPA firms are saying that, yeah, it's going to change, it's going to replace, but they're going to adapt.
So it's not, their business is not going to disappear. They're still making a ton of money in compliance. They're still losing a lot of money in audits, and they are finding other ways of doing consulting. They are resistant. I know in my firm, I remember, never forget this. I was working on a large sale of a sale of a large business. I helped the client start this IT firm, and one of my partners said, "I hope the deal doesn't go through. We're going to lose a client." I looked at him and I said, "We're either going to lose this client to another firm, or we're going to lose this client to somebody else." And they were selling to a public company, so we were not going to get the follow-up business. But there's other business that comes from that on an ongoing basis. And Michael can tell you, there's trust, there's tax work. If you do it right, there's a lot of work that comes after the sale.
Yeah.
So dealing with the CPAs is apparently still difficult, from what I'm hearing, but they'll adapt and they'll be fine.
That's a fact, man. Thanks.
They're having a problem finding new professionals going into that industry.
100%.
And that's evidenced by the fact that they have changed the requirements in many states, at least in Illinois, to become a CPA.
And not making it hard.
Exactly. They've lowered the requirements.
Hey, Stephen, be well. Thanks, Barry. Who are you going to toss it to?
Who's next?
Michael and Paul.
Paul.
So what I definitely took away is plan at least 3 hours. 2, George, I like that you have changed from calling it a oil well to calling it an asset class. That's something I can work with a whole lot better. And I sent you an email with some discussion I had with AI about ABC.
Awesome.
And third, to the discussion about CPAs fits with what I'm thinking, whether you're talking sports or business, it's all what's between our ears. There are limitations that we all have, and you're talking a lot about the CPAs, but a salesman has limitations, engineers have limitations, operators from operations have problems, quality people, whatever it is, they have some limitations between the ears.
Yep, 100%.
And I pass it to Michael, you said.
Mr. DeCiato.
Last but certainly not least, right?
Yeah, by no means least.
Yeah. So my approach to when I approach CPA firms, and I think Eric said it properly, is that look, I mean, your client's eventually going to exit. Yeah, we're talking about exiting and preparing them for a transition of some sort, but there's a lot of work that you can be doing for them in that process. And I always uncover it. I mean, there's financial statements that need to be prepared. They may need to upgrade their reporting. They may need to do more tax planning. They may need to have an outsourced CFO, which the firm could do, oftentimes come in. They may have a lot of, when we talk about their legal house being in order, I always mention, how about your tax house? Is it in order? And there's I see a lot of non-compliance around tax issues that need to be cleaned up. So I tell them, look, along the way, we're not, yeah, they're going to exit, but you can be a very key provider of a lot of services and a lot of cleanup services they are going to need along the way to their exit. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to exit, but why not be part of it and be able to provide those services and capitalize on all the stuff before they leave. Even though you won't have them anymore, they're going to leave anyway. But there's a lot of services along the way. So that's kind of the approach I've always used.
And Mike, the thing we didn't mention is most business owners know other business owners. So if you do good work for them, you're probably
Right.
going to get referrals too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
And Mike, thanks for all that stuff you've put up about the tax planning and the presentations and things. I'm looking forward to delving into that.
And the next session is tomorrow.
Make sure you're going to go to sleep. Well, if you want to.
No, it's really
I'll
good
do it just
stuff.
before bed.
It's really good stuff, Mike.
One tomorrow I'm doing as well, which is not so tax oriented. It's more about deal terms, especially the working capital peg and all that stuff. But That's another. These are working capital and cash free, debt free are big reductions in that top line price to the seller. And people don't realize it. And then the last one's going to be around the actual tax planning itself and how you can reduce that bite. But anyway, looking forward to it.
We need to hear from George what his takeaways are.
But yeah, George, what is your takeaway?
Well, we're 5 over. So I just, in respecting your time, my key takeaway is, I'll keep it brief. One, I don't think CPA firms, the CPA mentality is not going to change. There are, some shining examples like Heimlance in Annapolis of firms that are thinking what I think is the right way. Now, the other is, listening to you all, I believe that this moving from talking about an oil well, which doesn't describe much, to talking about an asset class and defining what that means is something that could really benefit you guys out in the market. And private equity I have discussed the concepts of asset class and strategic capacity directly with several private equity firms, and they love it. So if you're talking to PE, let's chat. I'm going to make sure you're armed and dangerous going into that conversation. Okay. And those are my takeaways. And guys, so grateful. Thank you all for your time. These are great conversations. Thank you. Couldn't do it with
everyone. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Anything I can do to help, let me know. Okay.
Everybody.